everybody. Good evening. It is your favorite educator and host, Dr. Danielle Martin or Dr. Dani. Welcome to the Education is Freedom podcast. In this space where we discuss all things education. And as we know, education takes place both inside and outside of the classroom. In this space, we invite fearless, purpose driven leaders, change makers, and advocates from all over. So, I want to take the time to introduce my guest for this evening. I'm so excited to have him. He is my first solo male guest on the platform this evening. And I'm going to read you a little bit of his bio, and I'm going to have him come in the room. So, Coach Kyle Adams, a trailblazer in athletics and leadership. Kyle Adams is the Deputy Director of Athletics for Delaware State University. He stands at the forefront of transformative change in collegiate athletics. With a diverse and demanding role, he provides visionary and supportive leadership on student athlete welfare, holistic wellness, NIL programming, risk management, compliance, among other critical responsibilities. But Adams' impact extends far beyond the realm of Delaware State University. As the principal and chief strategist of its Bigger Than Ball LLC, he empowers coaches, educators, and organizations to cultivate transformative learning experiences for the next generation of leaders. Through this esteemed leadership development entity, Adams has provided invaluable consulting and facilitated team building workshops at prestigious institutions like the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, College of Charleston, University of Delaware, Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, and East Stroudsburg University, also in Pennsylvania. Collaborating with renowned organizations, Adams has left an indelible mark on the landscape of athletic leadership. His involvement with Temple University's Philadelphia Coaches Conference, Newman University's Sports Management Sports Business Conference, Georgia Southern University Coaching Education, University of Washington Center for Leadership in Athletics, and the Global Sport Institute at Arizona State University further solidifies his position as a sought-after expert in the field. I need Coach Kyle Adams to come to the floor, please, and thank you. Hey, welcome.
Dr. Dani, how are you? It's good to
I'm
see you.
super well. It's good to see you. How are you?
Outstanding. Excited to be with you today.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to have you. So, for the audience and everyone out there, platform of the show, if you're following, you know this, but if you're new to the podcast, I'll ask a series of questions. We'll have a conversation, and we're just gonna jump right into it. Is that cool with you?
Let's do it.
So, I've read some of your bio, which is amazing, by the way. I'm getting a little tongue tied in there with all the things that you're doing. But I want to highlight your educational journey. How did you land at this point in your career? What motivates you to be in this space?
Wow. Well, first, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you today on your podcast. Been watching the work that you've been doing. Salute.
Thank you.
Just love your guests, love the topics. And again, really excited to be with you today. My educational journey. I in 1992 I entered Cheney University as a freshman, and I went to high school in northeastern Pennsylvania, what many would call the Poconos. My parents split, and my father moved to the Poconos. And in 1989, I got kicked out of Sarah Junior High School for fighting, and my mother made the decision to send me to live with my father. And at the time, I didn't know how it would impact my life. Being from West Philadelphia, going to the Poconos, it really exposed me to to a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I graduated from Wallen Paul Pack Area High School. Actually had the opportunity to start playing basketball while I was there. Um, and I had coaches while I was in high school that really impacted my life. And it really, through their coaching and through playing the sport of basketball, it really started to give me a level of direction in my life. It gave me a level of organization, I would say. I talk about how playing basketball and playing on a team helped me make sense of life, right? And how you have to work and develop to improve your skill set. I was able to take those same skills and integrate them into other areas of my life. And it gave me a level of balance um, and strategy on how to move through life. In 1992, I entered Cheney University as a shy, precocious freshman. Um, and, my college residence hall director, uh, Mr. Donzel Tiller, played a huge part in my growth and development as a young college man. I wear bow ties every day as a professional to pay homage to his impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me how to tie a bow tie. I've been tying bow ties for 30 years. Um, but we live by three word rules in Robinson Hall: respect, discretion, and communication. And it was our jobs as RAs to help facilitate and share those core values with our residents. And that really got me on the path of wanting to work in higher ed. I'd always had a love and sincere desire to teach the game of basketball, but I wanted to provide the same type of experiences through the game of basketball that was provided for me through my high school coaches. And that really led me to wanting to coach college basketball. Got an opportunity to kind of serve as a student coach in undergrad, and from there, my coaching journey kind of took off. Um, you know, I've coached at over 10 institutions. Um, I'm proud to say I've coached at 6 HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs are huge uh, to my core and fiber of my growth and development. So it's meant a lot to me to have an opportunity to do that, to help develop young people um, in that environment. So from there, I knew I wanted to continue on in my coaching after I graduated from Cheney, and I wanted to get my master's. I wanted to continue to further my education. My grandmother, who was a Cheney grad, she's class of 1945. I actually have her degree in my office at Delaware State. Um,
Yeah.
but I knew that I wanted to continue to further my education. Got an opportunity, but I knew I didn't want to pay for it. I knew I wanted to continue to coach, and got an opportunity to operate as a graduate assistant at the University of Rio Grande in southeastern Ohio, where I was able to coach. I ran a residence hall, and I actually started a multicultural student development office where I kind of did DEI work.
Okay.
Um, and I was there 2 years and was able to get my master's in education with a concentration in coaching and leadership.
Mm.
Um, but we can talk about educational credentials,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always felt my greatest advances in my education have come in my reading and seeking mentorship. And I consider myself a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn. I want to grow. I'm on YouTube listening to different things, personal development. I'm constantly trying to add value to myself and recognizing the more that I'm able to grow, the more that I'm able to add value to others.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. So
you
you know
know,
what, you're touching on this a little bit, and I wanna go deeper. Really talk about what coaching means to you. And I see underneath your name, and for those who are watching, we see your handle is bigger than the ball, LLC. So let's just talk about that. Can you talk about what coaching means to you, and why is it bigger than the ball?
Wow, coaching. I tell people often I'm the product of positive and transformational coaching, and coaching changed my life. It
Mm,
gave me balance. It gave me a sense of direction. It gave me organization. Um, the same skills that you have to utilize to grow and develop as a basketball player, you have to utilize those same skills in how you move in other areas of your life. And coaches help me develop that, right? And so when I became a coach, I knew that with the things that I wanted to instill in the student athletes that I coach were more important than how to put a ball in a basket or how to
mm,
make a proper chest pass or how to sit down in a stance and defend. All those things are important, and I've always felt like I was very good at teaching those things. But if a student athlete came to me, man or woman came to me, and that's all they got from me, I cheated them.
mm,
Regardless if we won or lost a basketball game, if they weren't equipped with the different competencies and knowledge and information they needed to be successful in life when this game stopped, if I didn't help prepare them for that, I always felt like I cheated them. So I always wanted our student athletes to recognize that this experience is so much more than winning and losing, you making a shot, or the skills that we actively work on the floor. Um, so I utilize a term. I speak, and you as an educator are familiar with it. You know, I developed a coaching pedagogy, right?
mm,
What does that look like? What are the learning outcomes? What are student athletes? What are men? What are women left with after their experience and through our coaching? I tell people all the time, I coach not for the 4 years that a student athlete plays for me. I've coached for the next 40 years when
mm,
they go through the challenges of life and not just the good things. Because I get the calls when one of my players, she just had twins. Um, I've got a player who's working on her doctorate. I have India Cross, who's an actress, who's a filmmaker, um, who's in Atlanta. I have a bunch of young women who I've had an opportunity to coach who were great student athletes, but I feel I'm thankful that I've been able to be a part of their journey where they
mm,
still feel compelled to let me know what's going on in their lives now. And I'll tell you what's really interesting, Dani, is now they coach me, right?
mm.
They're young
How
adult
so?
women in the world,
Oh,
and they're sharing their experiences with me, and I'm gleaning insight from them in my personal journey. Um,
mm-hmm,
and I always felt like as a coach, um, there's an exchange. I'm not just a teacher, right?
right.
There's an exchange. I'm learning from them just as much as they're learning from me, and we created an environment where there's shared ownership in each other's growth and development.
Mm-hmm,
They're developing their teammates, right? They're helping them grow and learn, but they're also helping me learn and grow. And then whatever I'm able to pour into them, it creates this great exchange. So
mm,
when you talk about it's bigger than the ball, that was the premise, a lot of why I felt compelled to start this entity through the podcast and through our speaking and uh, the development work that we do with teams, with coaches, with organizations, with schools. Is just based around really building that dexterity and knowledge in coaches and organizations, how to make it more transformational than it is transactional,
mm.
regardless of what the scoreboard says. Regardless, win or lose, what are young people left with from this experience? And how does what they're left with impact them as they move forward in their lives?
I'm
So,
glad to hear you say that because I feel like sometimes parents can kind of get lost in and sometimes even students. When I talk to high school students, that oh miss, Miss, I'm going to the league. I don't need to do this. Like they're missing so much of it where they're just seeing the like shine and glitter of it all, but not really trying to capitalize off of the life skills that you're teaching. They don't see those things as transferable, if that makes sense. They just get caught up in I'm going to the league. I don't need to do
Yeah,
this. I don't need to write this paper. I don't
yeah,
need to. I don't need to go to college. You don't.
right.
You know, yes. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear you say that. Let me ask you this. So on my last podcast, we were talking about Black women in leadership and Black women dealing with racism and misogyny. It's a battle every day. And in most of your career, you've coached young women. Um, what have you learned from pouring into and leading young women, and how do you support your young Black women who are athletes? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, but
Loaded
there's a lot there. So I coached men for maybe 10 years of my career, maybe 10 to 12 years of my career. And then my dream was to always go back to Cheney and coach. And I got an opportunity after I finished my graduate degree to go back to Cheney and coach. I never knew that it would be coaching the women.
question.
And when I was a student at Cheney, our women's program really struggled. And I was excited, one, to return to my alma mater. I love Cheney. But to have an opportunity to go back and coach the women's basketball program at Cheney really excited me based around the history and tradition of our program at Cheney. Coach Stringer, the 82 team playing in the first Division One national championship game. Um, Cheney women's basketball has one of the most storied histories in women's college basketball.
Mm.
Um,
That's
but when
not
you,
talked about a lot.
that's not talked about enough. But we've done some work
Hmm.
to kind of elevate that, as
Yes.
I'm sure you know. But when I got back to Cheney, it was very important to me to provide those young women with an experience that they felt pride in, and that they were able to develop a positive self image through their experience. So we did a great deal, um, and it required me to grow and stretch a lot as a man to be
Mm,
in that role. And I really started to recognize the experiences that young women on college campuses deal with when and engaging with men,
hmm.
right? And you think about a young woman on a college campus, she wakes up in the morning, you know, what's the experience that she has with maybe one of the janitors in the residence hall? What's the experience like that she may have with a professor, a male professor? You know, we know how social relationships and interactions are with male and females on campuses. You know, you got the guys tugging at your had her arm, come by the room, all of those different things that young women deal with on college campuses. When they came to me for practice for those 2 to 3 hours a day, they needed to get something different.
Mm,
And I was very intentional about really connecting with them, but also having them connect with each other.
mm,
And Danny, like women sometimes don't like each other for no other reason that they don't like each other. And so
unfortunately.
we wanted
Yeah.
to get to the core of those things and really start to have them engage in conversation about who each other really is.
Mm,
Not your representative, but who
hmm.
you really are. And what are some of your challenges? Because when we start to have those conversations, then I have a better understanding of why you may move the way that you move.
Hmm.
And then it allows me to have a greater investment in you as a teammate. And then those things carry off into the residence hall and onto campus, but also onto the game floor. And I always wanted our women to have a greater connection um, on the floor that gave them a competitive advantage, because that other team was like, yo, why are we not like that? Why are we not connected like that?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we encouraging to one another? So we did a lot with the young women we coached. We built something called confidence circles, where we were in we built out circles and coaches and student athletes, and we might do an exercise. For instance, have the ladies create a gratitude list, right? 5 things you're grateful for in your life, and then everybody, each of us has to get up in a circle and share. And Danny, I've been in those circles, and those young ladies are sharing, and they're crying. I get up and share. I'm crying, but it built a different level of connectivity in our program that really helped give us a competitive advantage, because we knew we had something that that team down, that we were playing against, they weren't connected in that way. Um, and I share that because in my current role, I serve as the deputy director of athletics at Delaware State. Our athletic director is a woman named Alicia Shields Gatson, and an amazing leader with over 25 years of higher ed experience. She's been a successful coach and athletic administrator. And so I'm very honored. And I feel like the experiences that I've had as a coach, coaching young women, has helped me support her leadership in the role that she has, leading a Division I athletic program, um, and really being able to help build that sensitivity and nurturing in our coaches today who on our campus who are working with young women, and what that needs to look like, and how we need to stretch and grow and develop to meet their needs and help them to become their best selves. So that had a lot to do with the experience of what I've gotten and experienced through coaching women. But what's led me to want to create It's Bigger Than the Ball and provide the different services that we do through
Mm. Okay, that's good. That's good. So, if you're just tuning in, I am here with Coach Kyle Adams, and we are discussing all things education, but really viewing coaches as educators. So, this is the second half to our Love and Leadership series. Let me ask you this. So, for those of you who don't know, you're on social media. They can find you on Instagram and everything. I saw an amazing presentation that you did called Defining Student Athlete Leadership in the Age of Generation A and Z. Tell us about that.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. One of my dreams. Delaware State University is a member of the Mideastern Athletic Conference, which is a conference of 8 historically black colleges and universities. Um, Howard University, Delaware State, North Carolina Central University, Norfolk State, South Carolina State, University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Who am I missing? Uh, Coppin State. Um, and part of my role at Delaware State is I serve as the student athlete advisory committee, SAC, one of the advisors. And the MEAC conference held a symposium for all of the SAC reps throughout the conference. And they asked me to come and be the keynote speaker. So I was really honored to have an opportunity to not just, because we talk a lot to our student athletes at Del State, but an opportunity to speak to all of our student athletes in the conference. It meant a lot to me because as much as we compete against one another, I feel like our institutions uh, are all mission driven in
Mm.
the growth and development of our people and our communities. So to have that opportunity was really important. But Coach Dani, we sit at one of the most pivotal times in the history of college athletics. Uh, Young people are able to receive pay for their name, image, and likeness today.
Mm,
Um, there are a lot of different ways that student athletes, a lot of agency that they have available to them that they've never had before in the history of college athletics. And with that comes a level of responsibility. Uh,
mm-hmm,
and when you look at some of the more publicized institutions, what we call the Power Five institutions, the bigger schools, uh, those student athletes are able to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness and different opportunities at a different level, per se, than some of our student athletes may be.
well,
So
wait. Let me pause you right there in case there's anybody who does not know what that means.
okay.
What exactly is that?
Name, image, and likeness. Name,
What
image,
does
and
that look like?
likeness.
Yeah.
So, name, image, and likeness is if you think of a student athlete uh, being able to make money from their name, their image, pictures, likenesses, they're able to build, uh, to make money from those resources today at a time where that has never been available to individual student athletes. Now,
So
colleges,
somebody like Angel Reese.
yes.
Oh.
So there are businesses that can connect with Angel Reese and say, hey, we want you to promote our product on your social media. We want you to make a commercial about our product and we will pay you for it.
Mm-hmm,
So a lot of that has somewhat kind of been reserved for the bigger schools. Um, but we've wanted to really make our student athletes knowledgeable of the different things that they need to do to put themselves in a position to reap those same benefits, but also
mm-hmm,
with that, allowing them to understand they have a voice in what's happening today and how they need to be vocal and they need to operate in their level of agency around what is going on in this current college athletics ecosystem. Um,
mm-hmm,
our student athletes at Delaware State were able to connect with uh, a member of the Congressional Hearing Committee on Name, Image, and Likeness. She's actually a legislator out of the state of Delaware named Lisa Blunt Rochester. And we were able to connect with her office and talk with her about some of the different challenges that HBCU student athletes have in this landscape.
mm,
Uh, but in talking about student athlete leadership, when you start to think about what's happening in our country right now, right? And when you look at the HBCU, a lot of people don't understand or recognize, Coach Dani, when we see videos of people being hosed and those black and white videos of civil rights, um, dogs and civil disobedience, those
right.
students were HBCU students. The vast majority of them were HBCU students. So historically black colleges and universities have always been at the forefront of social change in this country.
Mm-hmm,
And our student athletes, with all the agency and opportunities that are being provided to them today, when we talk about name, image, and likeness, but also student athletes can transfer from one institution to another without a penalty. Prior, if you transferred from school to school, you had to sit out and serve a year of residence before you could be eligible to compete. Now, the NCAA has made it so you can transfer and play right away. That's huge for student athletes.
mm-hmm,
And there's different arguments about, should they be able to do that? But coaches have always been able to leave and go as they come. Student athletes should have that same opportunity. Um, but in talking with our student athletes about what it looks like for them as student leaders on their campuses and them being knowledgeable of what's going on in this current landscape and ecosystem, because if they're not knowledgeable, then the people that they're leading can't be knowledgeable.
Right.
So they have to have a level of understanding of what's going on. Uh, Being willing to stand out, right? If I were to say to you, what's the opposite of courage, right? Most people would say fear. The opposite of courage is conformity.
Mm,
And it's easy for people to continue to do what everybody else is doing. It takes courage to stand out, to do
right.
something different, and really encouraging our student athletes to develop that level of courage and sensibility around what's going on in the world and recognizing their power to impact it. You start to think about, I talk to you about HBCUs and their influence on what goes on, um, from a civil rights and legislative level. Danny, I remember being a freshman in 1992. Student government rented vans to take us to vote.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
was that was the Bill Clinton election, right? Are we still providing opportunities to educate our student athletes on the power of voting, on the legislative branches,
Mm,
um, on the different levels of voting? Because many of our students, many adults think the most important, well, I'm got to vote for president. Well, you're not thinking about what's going on locally or at
yes.
the state level and how that impacts
Mm-hmm.
different things that happen in your communities.
Mm-hmm.
So really starting to shine a light and develop some level of thought around this experience is not just about you guys competing against each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dell State wants to beat Howard and Central wants to beat Norfolk and all those different things. But when this ends, how are you prepared to go back in your communities
Yes.
and uplift others and help that next generation? We talk about lifting as we climb.
Mm-hmm.
How are you utilizing your platform as a student athlete to help your community, to go your family? And how
Mm-hmm.
does this experience change the trajectory of so many of our families for generations to come?
Right.
So that was a lot of what our conversation was.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah.
That's good. And so okay. So in this space, we do a lot of talking about advocacy and what it looks like from different perspectives. And many parents may not know or understand what advocacy is, or what it looks like on the collegiate level, especially with student athletes. Can you talk about what it looks like to advocate for your students, and maybe too what parents can do in this space as well?
I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot there. The first thing that we really work with our student athletes, and one of my roles is student athlete development. And the first thing is teaching young people how to advocate for themselves
Come on, teach
and
people.
and really what that looks like. And that
Mm-hmm.
might be you saying, no, I know I did this work. I don't think I deserve a B. I think I earned an A. And I'm willing to talk with you more about that and take
Mm-hmm.
whatever steps I need um, to get to the outcome that I desire. And I think a lot of students don't have that level of agency. And
Mm-hmm.
so really talking with them about that. The purpose of leadership is not to build more followers, it's to build more leaders. And we're really trying to build our students to not need us. You
Right.
know, so much of our ego is caught up, and I say us and people who lead, coaches, educators, in the power that we have,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And true leadership is about submerging your ego and really relinquishing and sharing whatever power it is that you have with those young people in an effort for them to understand what that looks like and do it for the next person. So we really talk about self advocacy to start with, um, but then recognizing how um, I can't make it till you make it. All
Mm,
of our journeys are connected,
mm-hmm,
and so I can't just look out for myself and try to elevate myself if I'm not trying to elevate you, because your growth and development is direct and your progression is directly connected to mine.
mm-hmm.
And really working with to reshape and reset the thought process of our student athletes on what interaction looks like, right? Most
Yeah,
people interact, Coach Dani, think of a networking, or how can I use you to get to what I'm trying to get to, right? It's very transactional, but really
mm-hmm,
trying to reset and reshape that thought process and engaging in people and really listening and saying, how can I help this person?
mm,
Asking pointed questions. What is it that you're trying to do? What is there a book that I've read? Is it somebody that I know who can help you get to what you're trying to get to? And really trying to reset how we relate and interact with people.
right.
We're not just taking, where
So
we're giving.
more connection.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah, yeah. I like the word transactional. Like that is the truth. What can I
yeah.
get from this person? What can I get from this group? How can I? That's gonna go on my resume
How
and
can
make
I
it.
get over? How can
How
I
can
get
I get
over?
over?
Yeah. And really resetting that and allowing them to work from a genuine place and trying to help, because it's the realization is when you work. I read a book by a man named Bob Bodine. It's called The Power of Who. And it talks about if you help enough people get to what they're trying to do, the universe will magically open up to help you get to your blessings.
Mm. The power of who?
The Power of Who by a man named Bob Bodine.
Yo, Coach Kyle was always giving me books to read. I got like three books on my list already from him, telling me to go ahead and read them. But they're good picks. So let's add that one to the list. The power of who? Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. So speaking of books, you're an author. You just released a book called Discarding the Mask: Soul Sacrifices of a Coach. Tell us about that.
Wow. So I'm really proud of being able to bring the book to completion. It was something that I started. It was a 4-year process, because you start and you stop, you start and you stop, you start to deal with um, levels of identity foreclosure and imposter syndrome. Who am I to write a book?
Mm,
Um, but I often reference Coach Dani, coaching in North Carolina in Durham, and how Durham really helped shape me in a lot of different ways. It woke me up in a lot of different ways. I saw an amazing level of Black entrepreneurship, um, with the history of Black Wall Street in Durham. And I just saw people building businesses and collaborating and connecting. And I saw a great level of creativity that really impacted me in a lot of different ways. And I started to think about my coaching journey
mm,
and all the different places that I had been, and experiences that I had just wanting to coach basketball and help young people. Um, and I felt compelled to start to document that journey and just sharing about the influences, the people who have impacted my journey. I talk about, the impact coaching women has had on my life, having an opportunity to go back to my alma mater. Uh, I talk about getting fired as a coach. And,
mm,
people don't talk about we don't talk about our failures enough. We don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about when things didn't go well. And if we're going to reach and meet people and be able to influence people, we got to talk about stuff that didn't go well because life
Yeah,
doesn't always go as planned. And
right.
when you share those frailties and those missteps, um,
Mm-hmm.
it gives people the courage to be able to keep going. And
Right. It
so,
also it also makes you human, right?
yes,
It humanizes
yes,
you.
no
And
doubt.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I want you to talk a little bit about that if you don't mind. Right now, in one of my classes, we are talking about embracing failure,
Yeah.
and we're talking about blame and credit. So I had a student. I had to laugh at this because I had a student tell me he would be able to get his work done if I gave more time in the class for him to do it. So we got into this whole conversation about, okay, so when things aren't going your way, or you feel as though you failed, or whatever the case may be, you're looking to blame. But when things are going your way, yeah, it was me. I did that. I'm good. Taking the credit. And so, if you don't mind, can you share about a little more about that experience, about you being fired? Like,
I mean, I think failure, and I don't know if I subscribe to being fired as failure.
right,
Um,
right. And that's exactly where I'm going with the question.
yeah, I think that in life we need experiences that don't go the way that we plan, um, to learn. Like, one of the things we talked about as a team when I coached. Most people say win or lose. You either win or you lose. No, you either win or you learn, right?
That part.
And and I would say that you win and learn because you learn when you win, but you learn a lot when you lose, and it provides you with a level of information, um, and recognition that this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm,
So there's something else that I need to do,
mm-hmm,
and sometimes that's the greatest information that because I can't do that again.
mm-hmm,
I need to try something different, and I don't think enough people. I think when you start to look at social media
mm-hmm,
and all these different platforms that tell us we have to be successful and
mm-hmm,
we have to be perfect. Um, I think that there's real, genuine, um, value in failure, um, in being able to share that and articulate that, with a level of comfort. Not saying that you want to be there, but
right.
recognizing the power of failure and how you can grow and learn from it,
Mm-hmm,
and sharing your frailties. And one of the things I really have always valued and thought important in whatever leadership role that I've held, um, is being able to share my frailties, my weak points,
mm,
because we're all growing, we're all trying to get there,
right.
um, and the challenges that we face in life and their overcoming, we make our biggest breakthroughs. Right?
Mm,
Another book. Um, there's a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way." Right?
okay.
And just recognizing that the challenges, the obstacles that we face in life, in us going at them is where we make our greatest breakthroughs and our greatest levels of success. And we actually build those muscles
Mm-hmm,
because we're able to, we find in attacking those obstacles and challenges and we overcome them, we're more apt and ready to take on the next challenge. And we need those different things in life. And we definitely need them to model that type of perseverance for the young people that we lead.
mm-hmm.
Young people are watching us.
They
And
they are watching us, and I feel like, in a sense, and I'm just gonna be transparent here. I feel like, in a sense, in a way, There are a pocket of young people who want things instantly. And I think that goes back to, you were referring to social media, society. We are living in a world right now where, you know, microwave, right? Nobody wants to put the work in, but we want all the shine. And they don't realize the behind the scenes, the failure that you're talking about, the learned experiences. You know, I don't know. LeBron didn't just decide to get up one day and you know say this is it. I'm gonna be that
Right.
dude. Kobe didn't
Right.
decide that. Steph Curry, didn't decide that. Angel Reese, all of these folks, Dawn Staley, you know, they didn't just decide that. They stumbled, they fell, they got back up. There was learned experiences. There was a different way, a different approach. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Like, I don't feel like, in some ways, I feel like that is missing.
Well, what I would say, and you think about this, Danny, as a parent, right? The challenges that you face, that your parents, um, that they faced, many parents today are trying to shield their children from what they had to endure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and it's noble. I don't begrudge them for that, but we've got to let our young people fail. Because and one of the
Mm,
things, I have an 11-year-old son. His name is Mason, and I tell Mason that Daddy's not going to be here all the time. He's not going to be here. You're going to have to figure some of this stuff out on your own at some point. And I
yeah.
don't mean to be grim or dark, but
Right.
that's reality.
Reality.
And we have to prepare our children for a world that we're not in to protect them. And I think so many parents love their children so much that they try to shield them through everything. And when you watch a lot of what you see in athletics today, and um, parents don't want someone, like, allow somebody to be hard on your child, allow
Right.
someone to have expectations of your child.
And that's
Um,
starting in like Pop Warner.
yeah, yeah,
Like, there's so much drama in Pop Warner
yeah,
because of what you're saying.
yeah. But and then there's that, there's there's parents who are trying to live vicariously through their children based on whatever their
Mm-hmm.
athletic experiences have been. Um, I Coach Danny, I talk to coaches, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, and when you start to talk about to them about their athletic experiences, they revert back to childhood based
Mm-hmm.
around the experience that they had with a coach, and whether that coach elevated them and took them to a level um, that they couldn't go to on their own, or if
Right.
that coach beat them down and diminished them and made them, feel less than. These are
Wow.
grown men,
Mm-hmm.
women, careers, families. That's how powerful the coach player relationship is.
Mm.
Um, and parents, I think a lot today with parents, when you start to when you look at AAU, when you look at TV, and you look at the schools, and parents want their children to play on TV, and they want their children to play at these big schools, and all those different things. But a lot of the parents that I speak with, I talk to them about, is it more important for your child to play for a coach that's going to love and support them for the rest of their lives, or is it more about, you know, how shiny the locker room is, and how
Mm.
nice the uniforms are, and all those things that look really nice on social media. but we have to really get back to what's real and genuine, and that's
Right.
this, and how the coach can pour into student athletes and elevate them and help them develop a positive self-image and who they can be and become and how they can impact their community when they return to it. So um,
Mm, mm, that's good. Okay. So, what would you say to the young lady or just the student athlete and or coach who is watching and or listening right now? How would you encourage all of them?
I would say first and foremost, believe in yourself and recognize uh, that you are of value, if for no other reason that you woke up this morning, you got full usage of your limbs, you cannot see what you've been blessed uh, to have full use of your faculties and have life, and for that you have value to this world, but first and foremost to yourself.
Mm,
Value yourself. um, Another thing that I would say is um, really be intentional about finding mentorship, seeking
mm,
mentorship, right? They say that you are the sum total of the five people you spend the most time around in your life. Really start to radically and ruthlessly look at your surroundings and the people who surround you, um, because you're going to become them. And be intentional about recognizing who you want to be, uh, and not on social media, um,
right.
but in real life. What are the ethics and values that you have for your life, and how do you let them shine? How do they show out in your interactions? What
Hmm.
do people say about you?
Right.
How are people left when you interact with them? Um,
That's good.
but mentorship, I think, is extremely important. Really looking to connect, and that's one of the things that I really value about being at an institution like a Delaware State and the HBCU community is that you have people who work at these institutions, Coach Dani, who aren't um, who are there because it's their ministry, and they see it as their um, their mission to help elevate and uplift the next generation. And I
Hmm.
think we've got to be really intentional about getting back to that. Um,
Mm,
but recognizing, I think it's extremely important for our young people to really seek ethical, transformational mentorship, people who can help them get from where they are to where they're trying to go.
hmm.
Um, and I mean, I could go on for days uh, about how about what that looks like. But the other thing I would say to you is, how do they develop a personal develop? How do they develop themselves personally?
Mm,
What is it that you're reading? What is it that you're looking at? What is it? Who is it that you're talking to? Um, there are so many mediums for us to develop ourselves today: YouTube, podcasts,
hmm.
um, books, uh, mentorship, but really being intentional about growing and developing themselves and creating a plan. I don't have my whiteboards in here, but I got whiteboards that I write my dreams and my goals on. And what's amazing, Coach Dani, is watching those things come to fruition,
Yeah.
just based around the power of writing them down, writing those
Hmm.
dreams and those goals down.
Hmm.
So I
And,
think,
and not just writing them down, right? You need a plan of action,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Because I like to tell my students a goal without a plan is just a wish.
yes,
What are we gonna do about it?
yep.
Um, so definitely, yeah, plan of action. That's good. That's good, Coach Kyle.
Thank you, Coach
Okay.
Danny.
So
I
so
call you
so
Coach Danny. Thank you,
I
Dr. Danny.
know. I'm like, oh, I could be a coach for
But
now.
you are a coach. You are a coach. I listen to you talk about the students that you engage with, and you pouring hope into people. And that's what coaches do. They give people hope. They give people belief. They help people move from where they are to where they're trying to get to.
Hmm. We're hope dealers,
Yes.
right?
Yes, indeed.
Right. We help folks realize their best selves. You know, even if their time in athletics has come to a close, like you said earlier, what does that mean? How are you going to use your platform to pour into somebody else? So, how can we follow you? How can we find you on social media? You talk about mentorship. What if somebody is looking for you to mentor them?
No,
How are they going to find you?
I'll start you here. I'm old school. My phone number is
Ah,
302-367-3360.
Coach Kyle
My
just gave y'all his digits, y'all. Okay.
my Instagram, Twitter are Coach KA20. Uh, you can follow us um, at hashtag it's bigger than the ball.com. Uh, I'm on LinkedIn at Kyle Adams. I also have a podcast on all streaming platforms. The It's Bigger Than the Ball podcast with Coach Kyle Adams. Um, I'm also on YouTube. I have a YouTube page where you can access some of my videos and some of my speaking engagements. Um, but uh, I really want to utilize my experiences to help others.
Mm,
And I'm open, and that's why I give you my phone number. I'm open to helping, and I do that, and I operate with that spirit because that's what was provided for me.
mm,
And I really feel called to continue to lift as I climb. By no means am I there yet, but I'm ascending, and I want to help other people um, in any way that I can who are trying to elevate themselves and elevate others around them.
mm-hmm.
So please feel free
I
to
love
reach out.
that.
Anything that I can do to help you, your organizations, your schools, your teams, please let me know.
And you all know what I will say that Coach Kyle is genuine in that. Coach Kyle and I have had many conversations. Um, I just remember one day in particular, you coaching me through my day and telling me I needed to come back with some wins.
Got to
Tell me
get
about
some
your
wins
wins.
every
Tell me
day. You
about
got to
your
get some
wins,
wins.
Dani.
Yep.
And you know what? That conversation changed my mindset that day. And so, it's important to back to your point about surrounding yourself with the right people, your tribe, your village, whatever your squad, whatever you call them, is so very important um, to have a village, to have people in your corner, to have people who are of like mind, but people who are going to push you, maybe sometimes to your limit, but always to be your best self. And just because we're adults doesn't mean that we don't need that. So I just add my little 18 cent in there.
No, Coach Danny, we all need coaching. We all need coaching. Um, I need coaching, and I welcome it. Um, so I thank you so much to connect with you today. I was really excited. I'm thankful we were able to do this today. Um, and I just want to commend you on all the work that you're doing through this platform to add value to people, to amplify the voices of people who are doing really meaningful work um, in our communities. Um, you are you are a supernatural individual, and from the
Mm,
first moment I met you, I knew that there was something different in your spirit. And I'm very thankful that we've been able to continue um, in our friendship. And I'm excited to continue to build on our friendship as we move forward. Coach Dani, I salute you.
Thank you for that.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for that. I received that. Um, I appreciate you. I was excited to have you on. I'm glad we could get together and do this and educate the folks. Um, so I just want to thank you for being my guest this evening and to all who continue to tune in. I'm personally inviting you all to stay plugged in to Education is Freedom every second and fourth Tuesday of the month on all major podcasting platforms. But also, if you need to get in touch with Coach Kyle, he's given you several ways to do so. And go grab his book. So thank you very much. And to you all out there, keep shining and never stop learning. We'll see you next time.